Hello, crypto world. Welcome to the Chart Historian. My name is Justin, and on this channel, I delve deep into crypto charts, exploring chart structures, fractals, and patterns. So, as we sit here waiting for XRP to do something, I figured I might as well show you what I'm thinking, and you can see what I believe is potentially coming down the pike. Could be wrong, but I'll show it to you guys, and you can form your own opinions. So big picture first. So here is the XRP chart on the day candle. And as you can see, we have a bull run here, we have a bull run here, we have a bull run here. After the bull run comes the decline. After the decline or the bear market comes this time that it basically is range bound, and it, for the most part, goes sideways. We have that here, and we are now entering that here. Let me show you some of the fractals that exist in these structures. Okay, so here we are at the latest bear market or decline that XRP has experienced. And as you can see, I've labeled these parts of the decline starting with A and going to F. As I pointed out in many of my previous videos, these structures are actually repetitive structures that exist in every single XRP decline or bear market. I'm talking about a major decline, not just a little tiny drop. So a brief overview, you have the bull run right here, comes to a peak, declines, does a retrace. This is the first retrace A. Sometimes A is not there, after which it declines, goes into B. There are two parts to B right here, and then the top part right here. You have this little push up here, and then this C. So B declines and it moves into C. C has two parts to this structure right here. It moves up here, makes this one part of the structure, moves back down, moves back up to make the other part of the structure. C eventually declines into D. Right when it enters D, D pulls up, drops again, goes sideways, and moves back up, forming a bowl type structure right here before declining into E. Once it hits E, it moves back up and does another bowl type structure right here before declining into F. F is the capitulation fractal. I've spoken a lot about this in my previous videos. F pulls up and it declines, has this little tiny peak right here before coming to a low point before forming this other peak. Normally, this swoop right here goes lower than here. However, this is a deviation that first occurred from the original fractal in 2017, and this is where we get today's structure from the 2017 capitulation fractal. After which it moves up, and now it is out of the decline, and it is in that range-bound sideways time. Let's quickly go to the very first time XRP ever had a bear market, and we can examine those same structures. Okay, so here we are at the very beginning of the XRP chart. XRP data starts in 2013. This is the first bull run that takes place in 2013 as well, and then the first bear market that takes place in the XRP chart, and this took place from 2013 all the way to 2014. So just a quick review of this. So here you have the peak of the bull market. It drops, does a retrace, and that is your A fractal right there, your A structure. We go into B, and as I pointed out before, B has two parts to the structure. Here's the first part, here is the second part. It declines into C. Now these fractals or structures happened on a much smaller time frame. So the best thing is to go into a real small time frame to actually really see the repetitive characteristics. But C pulls back up. Here's the first part of the C structure. It drops and comes to a final peak right here before descending and going into the D structure. So just like in the previous D structure I showed you, price pulls back up, it drops, goes sideways, goes back up again, and in so doing creates this bowl type structure before declining into the E structure, the E fractal. And as you can see here, it pulls back up. It didn't go as high as the other time, which brings up an interesting or important point. So when a fractal repeats, It's never identical. And the reason for that is timing, height, and depth are original or unique every single time. So it lends to at face value, a structure that looks novel or unique. However, structurally, it is repeating the same thing every single time. So once again, E, it pulls up and does this bull structure before declining into the capitulation fractal or the F fractal. And once again, here we see price move up. It drops, does that little pull up right here, or push up, or small peak right here before coming to this point, before making that other little peak, and then going into that swoop. This time, that swoop went lower than it did here. So that is the first time the original structure, the original fractals that ever took place on the XRP chart. And ever since then, XRP has been repeating these structures, albeit every single time it plays out, it looks novel, but structurally it is doing the same thing. So now that we're out of this structure, as I pointed out before, we have entered into this sideways range-bound time. And as you can see, as the name suggests, it is sideways and it is range-bound. Now, let's zoom in closer and examine this structure. So there are two parts to this structure. Part A, which is the peak, and there's two parts to this peak, and then it goes kind of flat and sideways, which I label B. Now, this is a very bumpy structure right here. There is a variation to this structure. Instead of going flat and sideways right here in B, B instead swoops down to a point before moving back up into fractal 2. So there are 3 fractals in this time, 1, 2, 3. And just like the decline here is repetitive, so is this time here. This is also repetitive. So let's go further in time and we can examine this structure a little bit more and get a feel for what this structure does, because this, people, is what we are currently in right now. Okay, so I'm going to stop right here. This is the next time this structure plays out. Fractal 1, as you can see, it moves up. There's 2 parts to this peak here, or to this part A, and then it goes into part B. And in this case, it doesn't just go flat and sideways. It does kind of a swoop down to a point before moving back up into the next fractal, fractal 2. So once again, there are 3 fractals in this time, and they are repetitive. At a later date, we will talk, as we approach these fractals, we will delve more into them. By the end of this full structure, meaning the decline, the range-bound sideways time, and the bull run, you should be experts in the XRP structure, because I will continue to discuss them to where you will have a good understanding of what this chart has to offer. So again, B swoops down lower, comes to a point, kind of goes flat sometimes down here, and then moves back up. Let's continue to move along and see what potential fractal 1 in this range-bound sideways time has. Okay, so here we are in 2017. This was a very quick decline, as I've spoken about many, many times. This is an interesting range-bound sideways time. This also has 2 parts. This is more akin to the one that swoops down to a point before moving back up in part B. There is always the possibility that we might be doing something like this. However, I currently believe it's looking more like the other variation or version of this where it goes flat and sideways. Let's move along and look at the next time that this plays out. And I believe it is a potential guidepost for what is happening today. So this decline was from the current all-time high. Here is the F fractal. This fractal right here is more on a more on a vertical axis where you have that move up here and you have that little push up here. Here's that one little other push up before swooping down. And then it has this. This is actually an interesting little variation of this F fractal. So anyways, it moves back up. And as you can see, this one is a more flat one. Here you have part A, you have the 2 parts. It goes into part B, which is kind of flat and sideways. So it is my belief we are currently potentially doing this structure or something similar to it. Now, there is always the chance that we are doing the other version of this and it swoops down. What I'm going to do is I'm going to copy and paste this and place it onto today's chart, and you can see how there are some similarities, and you can also see the differences that exist. Okay, so here we are on today's chart. Just to back up a little, here is the F fractal that I originally spoke of earlier on in the video. And we've moved back up now. We are in fractal 1 of the sideways range-bound time. And here is that fractal from 18/19. So as you can see, it moves up here. Now, the timing on this is a little different. So I would say this peak right here is this, and then this peak here is this right here. In 2018, it did a slow kind of decline. Let me go in a little closer. Let's go to a 4-hour candle and see if this clears up a little. Okay, so here we are at a 4-hour candle. Again, you can see how it moves up here. This peak is here. This peak is here. It declines slowly in 2018. However, in today's chart, it dropped quite drastically. And now I believe we are potentially working on something like this structure. Now, I say potentially because there is the possibility I'm wrong, or it could be a variation of this and it's going to do something different. Let's zoom in here, and I'm going to show you a few different options that exist that they're different from this, but in the same sense, they're just repeating the same idea. So let me take this off, this structure off, and I'll place some other ones on. Before I do that, you can see how this kind of goes flat. Now, the timing, the height, the depth of this is not a good representation because all those things are unique every single time a structure plays out. But it can give you a rough idea of what could be potentially coming down the pike. Now, again, let's zoom in here, and I'm going to show you some different fractals on a smaller time scale that could help shed light on what could be happening in the near term. Okay, so if you copy and paste this section here over here, it would look something like this. And I've shown this in some of my previous XRP videos. It has been roughly following the idea that this fractal gives us. So you have one bounce here, another bounce here, comes up here. It's, for the most part, here, let's zoom in a little more so you can get a better idea. Let's go into a smaller time frame, maybe a 2-hour time frame. So as you can see, it's been kind of going flat. This, you could say, is here. This little move up here is this move up here. And then you have this. Now, it could potentially be moving away from this fractal right here with this current move up. Or, as height, depth, and timing is different, this move up could be an exaggerated version of what takes place here on the fractal. Time will tell. If this is something in the cards or something, a rough idea of what is in the cards, we will see XRP move down and then kind of continue to go flat and sideways. I'm going to throw on another fractal that can give you some other possibilities. Okay, so if you take this fractal right here that took place in November and copy and paste it over here, you can make a case that something like this could be in the works. You could see on a smaller time frame that you have one kind of little move up here. You have, this is a double type peak. We have that right here. Then you have this right here, which moves down to a peak here. And like I said, height, depth, and timing is different. This moved down lower, and now it's moving up. If this is something that could be in the works, we would see it move up to a point, kind of go flat, or start moving down and come to a low point somewhere on this chart. I personally believe that this is somewhere around here is a potential target. We'll have to see how things play out. The other idea is that if you take this structure, this full structure right here, copy and paste it over here. Let me do that real quick. So here you have that one move right up right there. This peak right here would be this. Then it moves up again, and then it starts to move down in In this fractal right here, it happens more in a more steep manner. Here, it's not quite as steep. If this is something that could potentially play out, we would experience a sideways range-bound time before doing something like this. Now, the truth is, when you really break it down, this original structure that I first placed on and this one, they're really just echoes of the same kind of idea. So whether it's something like this or like this over here, you're really kind of saying the same thing. It's going to kind of move down at some point. And that is also in keeping with what XRP does in this time. It is a range-bound sideways time, so it's kind of on the higher side of the whole structure. And as we saw before, it does move down. It kind of bounces around going sideways, or it could always do the swoop down. If it did that swoop, it would go lower than the current low. Let me show you. If this does something like this, it would go beyond this point. If it did that, it would pull back up into fractal 2. If it goes a little bit below here, doing this kind of sideways thing, flat thing, it would still pull back up as well. So there is that chance to go lower than this current low here, but if it does, it should move back up. Now, I believe this movement down that all these fractals show is actually something in keeping with what I think Bitcoin is actually going to do as well. Let's jump over there real quick. Okay, so here is the big picture. So this is the structure I believe is happening. So in a correction, Bitcoin does two distinct structures. This is a declining structure, so I label them structure A or pattern A and pattern B. Essentially, they're very similar. The difference is at the bottom, a pattern A does a V bottom, and a pattern B does a bounce. And they alternate between, you'll have one correction that's a pattern B, the other one is a pattern A. Some of the other characteristics that both these patterns have in common are they have an initial peak, and then they have three waves or bounces to the capitulation point. This one played out very uniquely. Normally, the initial peak is higher than the other waves. Sometimes it kind of goes sideways, and it's more like bounces. This is more like waves down. But if you look at this structure right here, you have the peak right here. It drops, and then it goes sideways and drops again. Here you have wave 2. It drops, and then it goes sideways and drops again. Here you have wave 3. It drops, and now it's going sideways. And will it drop again? We'll have to find out. We'll have to see. Let's zoom in, and I'll show you what this yellow little fractal is. Okay, so here is a little more zoomed in picture of this. This is actually this fractal right here. But what we would be doing is essentially something like this. Remember where I told you it goes down, then it goes sideways. Well, this goes down again. This would be what this is over here. So, and typically in these things, it kind of goes up, it rears up before it drops. So this could potentially be doing that. Let's zoom in even closer so you can get a better idea. Okay, so this is on an hour candle, and as you can see, Bitcoin has moved up. It's consolidating right here, just as it did in this fractal. Now, if it continues to follow this fractal, it would move up and potentially do some consolidation or some form of a consolidation right here before coming to a peak and then starting its decline. Now, this peak is... So see how this peak here kind of went at the same level as this right here, this little move up here, right there. So this could potentially move up to around here, to this little move up here before turning over. Now that is just all speculation. This green line that I have on the chart down here, that is a historically relevant location, which is $11,773 that Bitcoin, where it went below its previous all-time high, went to. It's not this exact location, but today's structure, it would be at this location. You can find more about this in this video right here. Well, let's jump over back to XRP. So folks, here we are back at XRP, and as you can see how it would jive if Bitcoin is doing something like this for XRP to do something similar. Now, I don't believe XRP will go as low as Bitcoin might, but time will tell. Again, all these fractals that I showed you are also speculation. So make of it what you will. As this pattern develops, I will continue to cover it. So if you found value in this video, please smash that thumbs up button. It really does mean a lot to me. And if this type of analysis is interesting, you should hit that subscribe button, that little bell button as well. And that way you'll be notified and kept up to date of my technical analysis as this chart develops. One important thing to note, I am not a financial advisor, so none of this information that I present here should be construed or used as investment or financial advice. Well, I'm so glad you caught this video. I hope you catch my next one. Have a great day, and bye for now.